La Belle et la Bête, aka The Beauty and the Beast, is a live adaptation from the 1991 Disney animated movie. Alright, so Beauty and the Beast starring Emma Watson as Belle. This movie actually surprised me on how well it actually was put together. It reminded me a lot of like The Jungle Book, which surprised me a little bit earlier last year, in the fact that I kind of went into Jungle Book with no really hope because the CGI looked a little too much. It's not really going to give the story too much depth or really get into the character of Mowgli or Baloo. But I was pleasantly surprised. The CGI was really good. The CGI was probably on par with Avatar for me when it comes to CGI effects that actually really work for the movie. Now, moving on a little bit from The Jungle Book to Beauty and the Beast, this is a live adaptation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the story. I mean, the story, this tale's old as time, so everyone knows what the story is really about. And then I'm going to talk about some pros, some cons, and then I'm going to talk about overall if you should see this movie or not. The story, if you literally know what Beauty and the Beast is, you know the story in 1991, this is one of the closest adaptations I've ever seen when it comes to taking credit from another work, either it be a book or another film or, you know, whatever. This is very closely adapted with a couple of live iterations that wanted to change a little bit. There's definitely some characters that changed just a little bit, and we'll talk a little bit about LeFou. And there's also some added emotional depth to this movie where it explored a little bit about Belle's mother. They really wanted to explore aspects that really were outside the tale a little bit. That way they added a little bit more to the length of the movie and also a little bit to the emotional impact of the viewer. So the story, I don't really want to talk too much about it, but the opening sequence of this is something really cool and new. It really shows you the Beast's backstory a little bit more and instead of just the fairy tale kind of opening it had in the cartoon, in the animated feature. And it really shows you a little bit more about in depth of what happened to the Beast. And I really enjoyed that. Then it starts off with Belle singing, going around the village. The villagers are singing back, saying, you know, how odd she is. She always puts her head in a book. She just wants to read all the time. Maurice, her father, is going to go off on an adventure, kind of just to get some parts for her and get it back her rose that she always gets every single year. He gets chased by wolves in the woods into this area, this castle that's hidden deep into the woods that no one knew about really. I guess, or they forgot about it. The townsfolk forgot about this castle. The Beast takes him hostage. Belle, you know, figures out, like, he's missing because the horse comes back. And then the horse takes her back to the castle. They switch places, and the story goes off from there. So now that I talked a little bit about the story, I'll talk a little bit about some of the pros of the movie that I really enjoyed, and then I'll talk about the cons. Alright, so this movie was brilliantly adapted. This is one of the best versions of something I've ever seen from another source material, and I thought that was really a positive vibe on this film. Also, the music was on par with the original film, and also there were some added songs into it as well that really, I guess, gave depth to the characters, and also really gave the audience, you know, something to do and sing along to and remember, kind of reminisce about the past. The acting was actually very well done. Gaston, played by Luke Evans, actually did fantastic work as a villain. From Gaston, there's LeFou. So LeFou, there's a lot of people who are up in arms about LeFou. Okay, he is, in the original 1991 cartoon, he is his sidekick, like the little dumb kind of sidekick of Gaston. But in this one, he's a little gay towards Gaston. So there's a lot of these passive kind of remarks that really are kind of quirks and quips that he keeps saying that the audience knows is like he's actually after Gaston and supports Gaston, but it's because he loves him. Honestly, I don't care what people think. He did a well job. He actually added a comedic kind of aspect to the film that I actually enjoyed, so this is kind of funny to me. And honestly, the people who are complaining about this, that's really silly. It's not your movie. Get over it. Luminaire and Codsworth, they're two of my favorite characters in this movie. They're the talking clock and the talking candelabra, or the candle, you know, that I really enjoyed. Ewan McGregor and Ian McKellen did this, and these are two of my favorite British actors, and I thought that was really cool, because immediately when I heard their voices, I'm like, oh my gosh, that is Ian McGregor. And then immediately I'm like, Gandalf! It's kind of like that scene in Lord of the Rings where Frodo wakes up, is like, Gandalf! kind of a thing, and I'm just like, oh, that's how I reacted when I heard Codsworth talking. Another aspect of this film, and I don't really want to go too into depth with this, was the emotional depth of the movie. There's some scenes that were added from the original into this new adaptation that really added a little bit more on the backstory of Belle's mother, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It actually grounded the film a little bit more, and honestly made it more digestible and good for us to really, as a viewer, to watch. I thought I'd talk a little bit about the cons. There's only a few. One, the first thing I noticed is how everyone in there pretty much was British in a French movie. Small little gripe, but I just didn't understand it, but I cannot remember them all being British, and it kind of threw me off a little bit. I'm like, this is France. It just didn't make any sense for the British to be all involved with this movie, but obviously this is a fairy tale, so I mean, they can do whatever they want with that. Another thing is that Beast CGI face. You know, I think I'm just not a fan of CGI, really, in general. I think I don't like it that much. I think it's really cheap compared to practical effects. I think I just always set a bar up too high. I always think of Lord of the Rings as a perfect balance of CGI where there's Smeagol, and then there's practical effects in there too. That like really, there needs to be a balance of sorts. In this movie, the CGI wasn't bad at all. Not to say that at all. It was actually pretty good, but it still takes me out of the movie a little bit every time I see something like that. And so the Beast's face needed a little bit of work, and I would prefer something else. I realize this is a kids movie and the CGI is probably better. They don't want to scare the kids as well. Like, most of the people who watch this movie are kids, so they don't want to scare them. So I completely understand the direction they went. An odd thing about me is originality. Now, this is one of the best adaptations of another thing, like I said before, but for some reason, there's something about originality that a director needs to bring to a new movie. So when you're watching a film, either it's the screenplay or the director, or how they write this movie or how they direct it, I'm always looking for something new in a film. And I already talked about a pro of Belle's mother in this movie being one of those aspects of the film I enjoyed because it was something new that I haven't seen before. I realize this is an adaptation, but this is just kind of a side note. I always look for originality, and I always look for something new in a story. And I felt like this was a little too close to the adaptation, but that's just me though. Alright, in my opinion, this movie is a 4 out of 5. So that means it's a definitely go see this movie. It's a really fantastic adaptation of the 1991 classic that everyone in my generation and everyone that I know, past is fallen in love with. And the songs are beautiful, the acting's beautiful, the cinematography is actually really well done in this movie as well. Definitely check out this movie. I'm probably going to own it on Blu-ray myself. So tell me what you think down below. Let me know your thoughts, your comments, and your concerns. And I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.